Hello everyone, thank you for joining us. I am Tiffany Lefour, Realtor with the Grubb Company, and I'm here with Joey Wolf, who is a loan officer at LaSalle Mortgage. And we just want to talk a little bit about some of the options of buying a home today. And first thing I want to say is there's a lot of noise out there, a lot of sensationalism in the media, and I just want to scream and say it's not necessarily the case here in the Bay Area. We are seeing a shift. Certainly interest rates obviously have affected people's ability to perhaps buy as much of a home as they initially thought they could, but it's a great time to buy. So I just want to talk about some of the ways that we can do that, help buyers get into a home now to take advantage of less competition, a little bit lower prices, and not be so caught up in interest rates, what they are today versus what they were 6 months ago. I bought my home at over 8% interest rate mortgage. And I won't even tell you how much equity I've thrown in my house since then. And of course, refinance multiple times, which leads us to this conversation about how one might buy now and refinance later. You're going to explain what a refinance is.
Yeah, so you may see people putting a phrase out there, date the rate, marry the house. And the idea of that is we understand that we're in a higher rate environment right now. So money is costing more than it did for the past 2 years. Now, as you said, there's opportunities to buy, less competition, so you could get in a home there easier than you may have been able to the past 2 years, but you are contending with the higher rates. Now, what does date the rate mean? Date the rate means that you're not necessarily going to be married to this rate for the whole 30-year loan that you take out at first. The biggest action people take in the future is they refinance their mortgage. And so since that's something that's being talked about a lot right now, I figured it'd be a good conversation to have to talk about what it is to refinance, what someone who's thinking about buying a home in this higher rate environment who is hearing that they maybe should think about refinancing in the future, what does that entail and what should they expect?
Right, yeah. So in other words, don't worry so much about the rate now. Just get the home, get into the home, which is ultimately the goal here. We're not talking about people who are using real estate as they would playing the stock market. We're talking about somebody that wants to buy a home to live in, to start their life, to make a better future for themselves, or move up or move down, whatever their goals are. Getting in the home now while it's easier, not worrying so much about what the interest rate is today. Obviously they need to be able to afford their mortgage payment,
of course.
But then so once they get in their home, at what point, we don't obviously have a crystal ball as to when interest rates are going to go down, but the soonest they can refinance is typically within 6 months, or at the 6 month
The
mark?
loans that the majority, and I'll start by saying I agree with you. The number one thing, most people are buying a primary home. This is the home they're going to live in, and they should feel comfortable. The first thing is, even if you're in these higher rate environments and you're dating the rate, marrying the home, you should be comfortable in the payment you have.
Yes.
Because we don't have a crystal ball, and while we expect rates to go down, and rates over time have been cyclical, rates go up, rates go down, you need to be prepared for the eventuality that rates stay where they are for the long term. So you should always be making these decisions based on what's comfortable with, not what you can expect in a couple years.
Right.
Now, the refinance, when it comes to refinancing, most of the loans that we have, the majority of loans out there, do not have any prepayment penalties on them.
Right.
There is no penalty for refinancing. When the opportunity arises, any lender will allow you to refinance right away. When you are getting a mortgage, that is information that is clearly outlined in your contract, so always do look at that. But overwhelmingly, they don't have prepayment penalties. Now, if you were to buy in a higher rate environment and look to refinance, you would be looking at what's called a rate and term refinance, which means you are targeting an improved rate and term. Rate is the interest rate, term is how long you're paying the mortgage for. When you do a rate and term refinance, the goal is to look at long-term and short-term savings. Now, short-term savings is what is the difference with the lower interest rate and the new mortgage. What is the difference between your monthly payment now and the monthly payment on the new loan? That is a monthly savings that you can direct towards savings, towards other costs, towards the home. That is savings you know you will have every time you pay your mortgage. Long-term savings is what is the total amount of interest you are going to pay on this new loan compared to what your current loan is. Now,
that scary number at the end of the 30-year.
Exactly, total interest and principal paid. And indeed. Now, the goal is to improve both of those. So
I like that.
There are situations where if you lower your rate enough in the point of time that you're refinancing, you will lower your monthly payment. And then if you calculate, let's say you've been in your mortgage for 5 years, you have 25 years left at an interest rate higher than you can get today. You can calculate it. A loan officer, I can, or a loan officer you're working with can help you calculate how much are you going to pay in interest and principal on the remaining 25 years of the loan you're in now, compared to how much principal and interest you will pay on that new loan. And if you can make a big enough difference in your interest rate, if you can attain an interest rate lower, you can have that number, even with 5 more years of payment, you can have a lower interest total with a lower interest rate. One thing to know, when people are buying the home, it's being suggested to them that they're going to possibly refinance in the future. What does a refinance look like? A refinance is the same loan process you'll go through with a purchase, except you already own the home. You're not in escrow to buy it. So you're only constrained by the rate lock you lock in. But other than that, the process is the same. You collect documentation. You generally need to get another appraisal. And there is a cost involved. A refinance will cost you about $4,000 for the transaction of fees to parties that are going to help you do the transaction.
Right. And that is part of the calculations when you're showing a client whether
that cost. I would incorporate that cost into the overall cost of the new loan compared to how much the current mortgage is going to cost.
And how
you
much they're going to save
there
over X amount of time.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, well, thank you. I mean, that's just one tool that we want to just put out there and encourage everyone who is interested in buying a house to still consider looking today.
Indeed.